welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hausman, and joining me today is a total rock star, brand new guest for us. I'm so excited about it. That's right. She's a senior marketing coordinator for commonsku, and I actually got the chance to listen to a podcast recently where she was talking, and I'm like, I have to have her on the show. It's Brunton. Thanks so much for joining me.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So like I said, I was listening to the SKU cast recently where several of you guys were expounding about social media, and I was on my morning run listening, and it was just like, I felt like I was taking a lot away from it. And so, you've done a great job sort of telling the commonsku story using social media. So what do you enjoy most about using social to promote your organization?
Yeah, so I love that podcast too. I was a little bit worried because we don't normally have 3 guests on at a time.
Right.
We had Melissa on from ASI, Taylor from American Solutions for Business, and me. So I'm glad that you got some good points from it. We're all able to kind of give our thoughts there.
Yeah.
But something that I had talked about in that podcast episode was that commonsku is kind of in like this unique situation when it comes to our voice and our tone, in that we are this like small cutting edge company of mavericks that's doing things differently, but we're also a tech company that a lot of other companies are trusting to help them grow and help their company. So it's kind of this balance of being like this super fun, like best friend sort of vibe, but also being like a very serious technology partner.
We know what we're doing.
Exactly right. So the reason that I just love commonsku social is because I think that that's where that fun voice can really shine is on social. Some of our more email communications, in-app stuff tends to be a little bit more of that serious technology partner. But social is really a place where we can have fun and show our personality. And I also just kind of love that that's where those ad hoc interactions can happen, those organic conversations, and not to say that we're not planned on social, but it's great to get to talk to everybody on there and kind of show that side of our personality.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think that, and you talked about that on the podcast, but I think the best social media directors, content directors, they have a plan, but it's just like anything else. It gets out into the public, and the public decides a little bit where that conversation goes. And that's a part of the job now. So kudos. In listening to this, I have hired a new marketing coordinator literally in the last 2 weeks. I sent her that podcast for her to listen to. So with that in mind, having a new marketing coordinator, what advice would you give her about telling our story on social media?
Yeah, something that I always tell Bobby, and then I need to explain myself because sometimes it gets taken out of context, is I love when someone in social media has sort of a quickness to their responses. And I say I have to explain that because I don't mean that they just type something out really fast and they respond, but it's that aspect of knowing your company or your brand story so innately that it becomes your story almost. So when someone is talking to us on social media, or I need to respond to some sort of post, it's almost as if that tone and that brand story is within me already, so I'm ready to respond. So a piece of advice that I would give your new marketing manager would definitely be to really take the time to understand that story and to make it their own, and to understand it so fully that it's almost your own story, and then it becomes almost easy to craft those responses.
That's great advice, because you've seen where not necessarily on the original post, but where people have gotten their personalities, personas online mixed up, and they go to reply and they reply maybe like the brand wouldn't like it. And so that's a great piece of advice. I love that. So, and this was the one I was really curious about, is how do you, or how should you measure success in content and social?
For sure. So the funny thing is if we're looking at content, if we're looking at different social media platforms, it's literally like comparing apples to oranges. Like everything is so different and constantly changing. So it's hard to be like, okay, we're going to measure all of our platforms based on the number of comments we get. Right. It doesn't make sense for certain platforms, obviously. So for us, platform like Facebook, for example, we're a lot more focused on link clicks. So driving the action or the behavior that we want to encourage, which is heading to our other content through Facebook. And
Mhm.
it's a very rare social behavior that someone's going to go to that blog post, read it, be like, wow, this is amazing. I'm going to go back to Facebook and comment on that specific post. So what we see success on Facebook is when we have those click-throughs. That being said, on a platform like Instagram, it isn't really designed for those type of click-through interactions. Obviously, you can have a link in bio or something, but it's definitely more in the platform, in the moment. So we measure that success with comments and interactions and saves and things like that. And then when it comes to content, that's definitely where we try to be a lot more dynamic. Obviously, page views is a huge thing, and we can see where those page views come from, which is great as well. But something that we've been trying to do a lot lately is kind of repackage our content and see which ways we can produce it to see how it performs better. So, for example, if we have a blog series, we might repackage that into an ebook PDF and see if that does a little bit better in terms of downloads that we can track. Another really cool thing that Bobby's been doing is he'll do kind of a narration of one of our blog posts. So it's almost like an audiobook. And those do really well for us as well. So it's kind of a mix of having those certain metrics that you're like, okay, this is one of our key metrics for this platform, but also understanding that things are going to change and being willing to kind of try things out and flip things on their heads and see what you can get back from that. So that's kind of a roundabout answer. I don't know if I fully answered you there, but it's just having those key metrics on the different profiles, but then, like I said, just being willing to be flexible.
Yeah, no, I totally, that makes total sense to me. And I think that your point about being willing to try new things, I think, you know, the algorithms on each of these things is going to change. And so being willing to try new things, you may find something that works. I think I saw recently that you guys were doing short clips of like the SKU cast. You do a short clip and then link back to the full clip. And again, you've seen people do that, but iterating and trying new things, I think makes a ton of sense. So that's great advice. So now, I'm not sure this is a fair question. So I just want to preface what I'm about to ask. This is my final question for you. I appreciate you taking the time. But what's something you try to do each day when marketing through social media? Is there a specific thing you're trying to do? Is there a specific platform you try to hit? What is one thing you try to do?
Yeah, this is a crazy difficult question because every day in marketing is different. Tell my boss, Kate, this. I'm like, literally every day I log on and there's something else going on, whether it's related to email, whether it's the in-app stuff we're doing or something on social. It's always something different. So I can't say necessarily that there's something I do every day, but I will say that's something I try to do every day. And I time block time in my calendar to do this is community interaction. So like you said, with all the changing algorithms and things like that, specifically Facebook and Instagram, they've changed a lot of their algorithms to favor manual interaction and kind of those organic interactions. So the things that you can't schedule. So going in and replying to somebody's story or commenting on somebody's post or reacting with something other than a like, giving it a surprised emoji or something like that. So I try and schedule a couple hours if possible during the day to be able to go in and do that. That's not something obviously you can schedule, but I kind of take solace in knowing that whether you're a tiny little company of just like a husband and wife team, or you're a huge corporation like Disney or Netflix, you have to do that boots on the ground kind of work. And so that's just kind of what I try and fit in every day, even if it's kind of a crazy one.
That is great advice. And it's something that I've been preaching for a long time. And it's interesting to hear the algorithm is changing because it's like, it's trying to scale the unscalable. That is not a scalable thing, but there's still value to it, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's being through a brand or through your personal brand, actually taking the time to look at somebody's comment and say, I acknowledge you, you are important. It's hard to put a price tag on that.
It's that authenticity, right? Of I think that most consumers know when you see a post, whether that's been pre-written or whether that's an organic interaction. And I think that lends very well to the Commons Hue brand as well, is having those kind of quick, funny interactions is all part of the job.
No, that's cool. Well, Ali, I really appreciate you taking the time. You are the expert on social media, and
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I do appreciate you taking the time, and we'll have to do it again. Okay.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.